This is the Game Changers Experience. Deep dive conversations with leading business disruptors, Olympic athletes, celebrities, entrepreneurs, and influencers from around the world. This show will teach you insights about the winning principles in mindset, productivity, marketing, branding, entrepreneurship, business strategy, and more. Hosted by productivity authority, business strategist, former elite athlete, author, and public speaker, Adam Strong.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Game Changers Experience with myself, Adam Strong. And today we have another amazing show here and another amazing guest. And you know what? I just wanted to say, what a great show it is so far. We're coming up to 250 episodes, depending on when you are listening to this, of course. Super excited. We just celebrated our 3-year anniversary. Wanted to share my gratitude and appreciation to our guests around the world. We have over 52 countries listening in, and we have thousands of downloads. So I just want to share my gratitude and appreciation. So I want to get into today, really want to get into today really quickly. And I've got my good friend, April Beach here. Now, April is, she's got a wealth of experience, but effectively, she's an award-winning business strategist. And she's also a podcast host, by the way, similar to myself. And what's really interesting about April's background is she teaches people like coaches, consultants, authors, and speakers, and effectively helps you guys scale your business using licensing frameworks and in IP and programs. So she does a lot about that. And, when you meet someone for the very first time, right? So we only met about 2 months ago, right? Through a mutual friend, which I'll tell you in a minute. And literally energy just blows up, right? When you meet that kind of like that spark, it's like, damn, this conversation, we could have conversations like for hours and hours and hours and end. Literally, I would be more than happy to invite her into my family home and sit down, have tea and coffee and dinner. So that's what it is, right? That's the way it should be, right? Anyway, so what does April actually do? She effectively helps you guys unlocks your zone of genius, designs various amounts of intellectual property frameworks, programs, and effectively helps you to scale for high profit using this licensing model. Now, we've never had anyone that's done this before, but I'm looking forward to the conversation. So what are we going to talk about? First of all, we're going to talk a little bit about what entrepreneurs and leaders do, or should we say don't do, in terms of lacking, in terms of scaling. Why is it that you guys find it hard to scale? So we're going to talk about that, have an open dialogue. We're going to be talking a little bit about the fear of losing control, because I know that is one of the reasons why that holds you back. Okay, I know because I've lived that life. Okay, I know that. We're also going to be talking a bit about program design. We're going to be talking about IP. So we're going to be talking about mixture of free-flowing conversation. So really looking forward to today. If you're listening to this on the podcast, of course, what you can do is you can make sure that you go to the description notes, check out April's social media links. I know that she's got a little gift, which we'll talk about at the end. So let's bring the main lady on the show. April, welcome to the show.
I'm so glad to be here, Adam. Thank you so much for having me.
Awesome. It's great to be here. And, it's really interesting because I know that, one of the things that you're all about is all about like lifestyle and freedom, right? You're what we call a freedom entrepreneur, right?
I am.
and one of the things that you just done over the summer is that you've just been enjoying this, like, I don't know, it felt like an eternity vacation with your boys. What did you do? Like, what is your idea of fun these days?
Yeah. So my idea of fun now versus probably what it'll be when my kids are older and gone is totally different. But I take off every summer. I take off about 6 to 8 weeks every single summer. I have for around 10 years now to travel with my boys. And so it's really centered around whatever it is they're doing. I have 2 boys that play lacrosse. So this summer was all traveling around with my youngest son for his college lacrosse recruiting. A few years ago, I have a son who is a professional hip hop dancer in LA. So I lived in LA for the summer and drove him everywhere. And then between the boys' sports, We do action adventure outdoor explorations. I was just telling you last week, we were off grid for a couple of days up in the Boundary Waters. And so it's a mix of sideline mom and massive adventure. So I'm honestly really glad to be back in the office because I'm getting tired. 5 years from now, I'll be in the Maldives for 8 weeks, right? But right now, in the last 10 years, it's mom mode 100%.
Love it, love it, love it, love it, love it. You know what? I really admire people like yourself who, have this, the responsibility of being a mom or a wife or a partner or whatever it is, right? As well as run a business, because it's a juggling act, right? You've got to be everything to everyone, right? And not feel like you need to give enough time for self-love as well. Does that make sense?
It does. And I mean, we could have a whole nother conversation about this, and it's not even the chat today, but I learned this from my parents. So my parents were lifestyle entrepreneurs. And so it's just all about building a business to play first. We play first, we're play first advocates. And so it's all about building a business to play first. And then you fill in the big rocks or the play, the travel, the adventure, and then the little rocks or the work in the sand that support that. So I had a really unique opportunity to learn that. Actually, it's how I've lived my whole life. So I feel really lucky about that.
Well, and this is probably one of the reasons why we're jamming, because you mentioned adventure and fun, and that's kind of one of my core things around adventure and fun and stuff like that. So that's cool. And just before we kind of move on, I want to give a big shout out to Paulina Groman, who introduced us, because Paulina is a rock star. We met her on Clubhouse. I met her on Clubhouse, and I know that you've been in contact with Paulina. She's a great connector, though, isn't she?
She's amazing. We met on Instagram. I'm sure we crossed paths, all of us on Clubhouse back in the day, but we met on Instagram. We became fast friends. She's been on my podcast. She's taught a masterclass for my clients. She is just this amazing giver and super connector. And I just appreciate it's a new friendship I have with her, just like you. And I appreciate it so much.
Absolutely. And you know what I love about people like Paulina is that they've really mastered the art of authenticity and just, giving without expectation. Do you know what I mean? It's like they don't expect anything in return. They just want friendship. Do you know what I'm saying?
I do. And I'm really lucky to have found her as a friend and for her to have introduced us.
Definitely. So Paulina, we just want to give you a big shout out, by the way. Anyway, so let's get into the nitty gritties of today, because I know we're talking about licensing and we're talking about being able to sell programs and things like that. But let's talk a little bit about maybe some of what you guys are listening in, what prevents you from scaling up. You must have had probably thousands of consultations or onboarding calls or whatever it is, right? And they all come with different, what's the word I was looking for? Different challenges, I suppose, or what holds people back. But what have you found the most common things that hold a business back? What have you found any common patterns at all?
Yeah. So especially with coaches and consultants that have courses or masterminds or programs, they have frameworks that they teach, even if it's just a one-on-one coaching program. So typically the way that most people scale, and there's a bunch of different ways to scale, right, is increasing your numbers, increasing exposure, doing launches, bringing in affiliates, ad spend. There's just so many different ways we can scale our reach without doing more work. First of all, I would say a lot of people don't understand the difference between growth and scaling. Growth, we want to increase our reach, increase our profit, but we're also to a certain extent increasing our expenditures to do that, like ad spend, like onboarding new team members. And so when we get into scale, we want to make more money without really increasing our spend. And that's pretty hard. That's the dream, right? To make more money with less work, with less expenditures. And so we do have a division of our business that helps with traditional scaling, selling courses, selling programs, creating courses and programs. And that's what I've taught for 27 years. But what happens and what happened to me was I didn't have a huge team. I didn't have a huge ad spend, and there was only so much I could do. And frankly, I didn't have a lot of time because I've always, I had 3 boys within 4 years of each other. Now they're from the ages of 21 to 16, but there's very little time and we have to be very careful for our time. So I always hit this kind of threshold of there's really only so much I could do.
Right.
And so that's what I find. People are exhausted. They get burned out. They get tired of trying all the things to sell more of their course, sell more of their training, enroll more people in their mastermind, attend more networking events, all of these things, which I do all of these things. We do all, these are all great ways to scale, but you just hit this time and energy threshold. And I find that most people that come to us, first of all, they don't either have a custom scaling plan they don't have to do all the things. We just have to find one great way to scale that works for them. And then they don't know what else they can do. Most people, when we talk about scaling with licensing, nobody's ever heard of it.
Right.
People just don't know what it is. And so when I get an opportunity to, like I have here, I love this opportunity to share. What makes me so excited is opening up this new door. It's like, what's door number 3? We have door number 1 and 2, but what's behind door number 3? Most people just don't know. And so, with the traditional struggles with scaling, there are ways around that. We all successfully do that. And we've all failed probably a million times, me included, in scaling traditionally. With licensing, it's door number 3. It's just something that people never knew existed. And when they find out about it, they get really excited.
Do you find that there is this kind of like false perception around what licensing is? Because I know that we haven't really talked a little bit about like what licensing it actually is and kind of like the difference is I think that from my perspective, when I first thought of the word licensing, I thought it was kind of like a franchise type of analogy where you needed a lot of capital in order to scale. Does that make sense? But is that the case?
Yeah. Most people really, really don't know what it is. And I didn't know what it is when it landed in my lap. I did not go looking for this. It landed in my lap. I'm not some genius that came up with this. I just had an amazing opportunity 14 years ago where somebody approached me to license my courses. So licensing, traditionally, we're familiar with like music licensing. Like I license music for the beginning of my podcast. We're familiar with licensing imagery for social media. And those type of licensing deals, even big brands are familiar with licensing their brand to allow other companies to display their brand and physical product licensing. But when we talk about licensing your course or your framework or your training or your intellectual property, people don't actually really understand what it is. So let me just simplify it. Licensing is like renting your content. It's giving another company permission to distribute it. And so it's taking your course or your training or your framework or your step-by-step process and allowing either another coach or another consultant, a corporation, a nonprofit to actually take the training that you've created, the program you've created, and allowing them to distribute it to their people. That's what licensing is. And yes, there are some different things with licensing a franchise. I'm not a licensed and franchise attorney, but when we talk about franchising, there's a huge amount of money behind it, right? There's a lot of capital that you need. With licensing, all you need is to have created a great program that gets people transformational results. It doesn't even matter how big it is. It can be a 1-hour training or it can be a 12-month program. It just has to be fantastic and deliver transformational results.
That's really interesting. I actually didn't know that. But with regards to, because you said it could be a 1-hour training, it could be a complete like infrastructure accelerator, whatever it is, right? So you're saying it could be anything. So then if you're say you wanted to attract licensees, right, to effectively rent out your program or whatever it might be, are you saying then in fact, no, hang on, let me rephrase this actually. Because then my next question would be is, okay, do I need to have these things in place? I mean, most of us have got like some sort of, I mean, if you're a consultant, you'll generally have like some of us only have one-on-one stuff, right? Others have group programs. But I guess what you're saying really is you've got to have a proven track record of a program, a masterclass, or something, some intellectual property, which delivers results. Is that right?
That's correct. You have to be good at what you do.
Right, exactly. Now, last time I saw it, ladies and gents, for you guys that are listening in, we were all pretty good at what we do, right? Yeah, I thought so.
We're always getting better, right? We're always trying to improve. We're always getting better. Don't expect to be perfect, but
absolutely.
Do your due diligence.
Do your due diligence. So then my next $1 million question is, okay, so that means, okay, so I've got my program, right? I've got my Holy Grail product, whatever it is, right? Okay, I'm interested in trying to scale this a little bit more. How does one go about doing it? Because I know that there's going to be probably a million things, a million ways in which to do that too. But what, from your perspective, how did you go about doing it?
Yeah. So the first time I did it, I fell on my face and I was like crawling up a mountain on my knees, trying to figure it out and like how to navigate it. That was 14 years ago. Now we have a project plan. It's a step-by-step project plan, and I can take you guys through the process. And, you know, the first part of figuring out if this is even for you is what I call positioning. And that's understanding, what do we all want to be known for? I think that's really important, especially with licensing, because when we're talking about, and you were talking a little bit about this before with control, when we're talking about allowing another company to distribute your content, there's a few different ways to do that. How much do we want to be known for that material?
Right.
And really figuring out, is this a training or a program or a course I still want to teach and I still want to sell? So for example, if you in your own business still want to individually sell this and you want to allow for another company to do that, first of all, you absolutely can do that. But how much of it do you give the whole program? Do we take maybe sections of it? Or do we allow that company to do what's called white labeling and call it theirs? Or does it stay under your name, your brand, because you want to be known? And I think that most people think they just need to jump into the contracting, but the biggest mistake I find is that entrepreneurs don't take a moment to actually, sometimes it's hard. You know, I always say, think about the vision where you want to be 3 or 5 years down the road from now. But really, you know, selfishly ask yourself, how much do I want to be known for this content? If you don't care. So for me, when I first started doing it, I didn't care. I had 8 online courses that a hospital corporation had approached me to license. And I could have cared less because I didn't need to be known for that. And so it was easier. But if you do want to continue to offer that, then those are some of the first things I want you to be honest with yourself about. You don't have to give them all of it, and you don't have to allow them to white label it. So I think that just understanding to the best of your ability, you can let more go later. The thing with licensing, different than a launch. Those of your listeners are probably used to, you know, we're doing launches, course launches, affiliate launch, you know, and these different to a launch, right? The difference with licensing is we can't take it back because it's an agreement that we allow for this company to distribute it. So if we allow for them to distribute your training or course for 3 years, you don't get to change your mind. Right. So I really say to our clients, listen, you know, if you're not really sure how much you want to give this away, let's give away less. And then you can always increase their flexibility in the future.
That makes sense.
That makes sense?
That makes complete sense. So
go back and to answer your question, you know, really it's like, what do I give away? Most people really first start out, what do I give away? What do I charge for this? Charging, you know, is down the road. We'll talk about money a little bit, but I really want people to understand that, stopping just for a moment and understanding if this is your life's work, that's an important thing for us to know. Mm-hmm. And then who you license it to. Right. We talked it in the free training thing I'm going to give to your listeners. We actually give you guys an entire list of 10 different industries that are looking for programs just like yours. It's a really cool cheat sheet, but you can license your training. So you can give permission to a larger company or a larger organization to distribute your training. And your training could be internally. So say we have many clients who have resiliency trainings, communication trainings, equity, diversity, and inclusion trainings. Those are all trainings that companies really value internally. But your program also could be one that a company uses externally, client facing. They actually give it to their users as well. So your training can be internal. It can be a corporate benefit. Maybe you're a wellness coach, or you help people, quit smoking or drinking or have a baby or whatever it is. All of those are really great internal programs. And so you can license to big companies, big corporations, which honestly, you guys, it might sound really intimidating. I've never worked in a corporation a day in my life. When I first started doing this, I literally have never worked a 9 to 5 a day in my life. And when I had a corporation that wanted to license, I'll tell you a funny story really quick. My sister works for me. She's worked for me for years. And I remember getting on the phone with this corporation, and this was like 2009, 2010. And we would get off the phone and have to Google some of the words they said because I had no idea what they were talking about. We get on the phone and be like, what was that? What? And like we were totally fish out of water, right? So hopefully this also lets you know that if I can do that, and now we have a project plan to give you, like anybody can do this. So we have those big companies, but also other entrepreneurs. The thing that's really cool about licensing is we can actually turn your competition into your clients. So let's say you're a marketing coach or a lifestyle coach, and you have this amazing framework and amazing program that you have been busting your butt to try to lead your niche with your training, your course. If you're kind of burned out on that, say you want to travel like I do, or go write a book, or, coach on something different. Like we're always reinventing ourselves. We're entrepreneurs. We're going to do this until we're 110, right? If you're getting tired of that, then you can license that training to those people in your niche, who are your competition, and allow them to distribute your unique training to their people. And they pay you once for those access seats. We've totally gotten you out of like racing with them. And now you're pouring into each other. It's good for them. It's good for you. It's this great collaboration. Everybody's happy. You're working less. You're making more money. And, shaking hands and kissing babies. So it really depends on what program you have, whether or not you want to license it to a bigger company or a small business or a nonprofit. We also have clients who've licensed their trainings to universities, multiple clients who've licensed them to universities who never went to that university. And they have trainings, especially on marketing. Universities are struggling to keep up with the things that we're doing here, like social media marketing. They don't do this every day like we do. And they are responsible for teaching their students how to be active on social media. I have a client who licensed her program to 2 different colleges about how to show up confidently on camera on Instagram. So really, it can be anything.
Love it, love it, love it, love it. That brings me on to a really thought. I mean, when it comes to licensees, people that are willing to take on your intellectual property for whatever purpose, is there a rule of thumb when it comes to your ideal licensee? Because obviously there's going to be probably people that are out there which you think, oh no, I couldn't give my intellectual property to them, but for whatever reason. Is there anything from your perspective? Is there like a particular checklist, or are there any red flags that we should avoid when it comes to having the conversations with those potential licensees? Any thoughts?
Yeah. So my personal checklist, every single business owner has their own convictions. I really recommend that your business values align with theirs. If they are going to go out there, think about it like this. If they're going out there in public and they're saying, hey, listen, I have April Beach's course. We're so excited. And they happen to be a company that doesn't support some of the other values that we support. Our values don't align, whether it's political or it's about climate change or whatever that is. That's a big red flag for me. So we personally only align with companies, even if it has nothing to do with the content that you are providing. Quick story, in these things will come up as everybody continues to grow in business. I'm sure for many of your listeners, they've already come up. About 16 years ago, I was approached by Nestle to be a spokesperson for them. And I was so excited about it. And I had 3 little babies at home, and I was, it was about business. And I looked at the contract, and like something stopped me. And I went and I started looking at some of their other practices. And I realized very quickly that I personally did not agree with those. And I turned down the contract. And that was probably the biggest kind of big girl business decision that I ever made, because I was walking away from a lot of money. And so the same thing comes with this, whether it's an individual entrepreneur, maybe you don't like the way they show up on social media, or maybe you just don't really align with them. That is each company's individual choice. When we're talking about bigger corporations, frankly, big corporations really don't publicize so much that they have your program. Big companies, to be really honest, they license things all the time. This is part of their everyday practice. They don't want to create a program like yours. It's faster and it costs them less money just to license yours. So this is part of something they do all the time, especially a large corporation, a large bank, or a large hotel chain. If they brought your program in as, let's say, a wellness benefit to their employees, we actually have to build in your licensing contract that you're even allowed to say that they're a client, because oftentimes they kind of want to keep it hush hush. So you really just, because of the nature of how big the company is, you don't have to worry about that so much, because they're not out there going, wow, we're so glad, we're Hilton or Marriott or United Airlines. We're so glad to have April Beach's course. Like, they could care less, right? It's more for us to be able to broadcast that. But that is a really, really good question. And I would say that comes into play more with the smaller business and entrepreneurs, that you want to align with people that you just have like-minded hearts and connections. And that's my personal opinion on that.
Yeah, you know what? It's an interesting thought. I mean, it's always good to get people's spin. And I was having a conversation yesterday, actually, and I said in our conversation, I was like, it doesn't matter the amount of money that's on the table, because if it harms your brand and reputation, it's just not worth it. You spend so many years to build up a brand and reputation, and then in seconds it can get destroyed. You know what I mean?
Yes, I do.
Crazy.
I do.
Crazy. It's good. I know that one of the biggest fears, which we kind of like briefly introduced at the beginning of the conversation, which is this fear of kind of like losing control, right? Because, what you're doing is you're going down this pathway of empowering others to take on your IP program, whatever it might be, right? But then what does, in terms of like from a licensee perspective, right? How can one overcome that fear of losing control? Does licensing allow control to a certain extent, or are you allowing, when they rent something from you, for example, do they have full exclusive rights? I mean, I'd love to know what your thoughts are about this, and what some of the clients that maybe you worked with, and that's maybe the reasons what's held them back.
Right. Great question. So yes, so we have actually a checklist called the levers of licensing. And first of all, there's no right or wrong way. And that's why people come to us, because people just say, I don't know what I don't know. And so talking through this, understanding what your goals are and what you want to profit on a program is part of determining these levers of licensing. And the levers are as follows. So for example, how is it branded? Are you going to allow them? We talked about that, to white label it. Do you want it co-branded, or do you want it just straight out? Here's, adamstrong.com. This is my program, my label. Everybody who gets it is going to know it's just me. That's one level of control. Another level of control is how many people have access to it. So that lever is you and your contract during the initial connection time with a company say, hey, listen, how many people do you want to have access to it? And you negotiate on the number of people. There is a limited number of people. Another lever that we control. And once we decide these levers, it tells us our pricing. So for example, white labeling, somebody's going to pay more for that to call it theirs and give you no credit whatsoever than they are if they're going to be out there promoting your brand. So another lever is length of time. So length of time, how long do they get it for? We don't ever give an unlimited license. I would actually say people come to me sometimes last minute. They have a company that is approaching them. They heard them speak and the company's like, oh my gosh, we want your program. We're so excited about it. And one of the biggest mistakes is because the entrepreneur is excited because it's flattering and they're really excited to have their program in a company, they don't go through this thought process. And frankly, to be really honest, the company is not trying to screw them. The company actually doesn't know either. The company just wants their program too. And so we've had clients, give an unlimited license for them to distribute their program with no expiration date. And so having an expiration date on that is important for a couple of different reasons. Number one, because you don't have to renew it. Let's say you don't want to do licensing anymore. You can change your mind. You don't have to renew it. That is your out. And also because what if it needs to be updated? What if what you're doing is something a little bit closer to medical or health or AI? We have a client that she's an AI marketing genius, and she has programs to teach corporations how to use AI for marketing, right? That baby needs to be updated all the time. And so, really depending on that, the length of time is really, really important. Also, very important lever here is, where does the content live? So do you host it in your learning management system? Is it on your Kajabi or your Thinkific or your, whatever it is, wherever you have it?
Right.
Or does the company want to distribute it on theirs? Bigger corporations have their own LMS. They want to distribute that. When we're allowing a company to distribute on their own LMS, we are losing some control. Flat out, we're losing some control, but we have very good contracts. And the great thing about companies is they have great attorneys, and they don't want their companies to be in breach of contract. And so the bigger the company that really wants to have your material, frankly, you guys, it is amazing because you don't have to host it. You get to button it up, wrap it up, send it to a company, and you never have to see it again until it's time for them to send you more money. It's fantastic. It's one of the ways we do it. But then we do have many clients that host their trainings on their LMS as well. And so when we're talking about control, those are some of the levers. And in that gift for your listeners, I go through all of them and all the levers of licensing it and how to answer each one. Another way that we can do this is you can do licensing of a program and then a train the trainer program on top of it. So let's say you have a program on communication and it's going into a nonprofit organization. You can also meet with the company as you're making the plan to release your program and say, hey, do you have 5 people that you would like us to actually train to facilitate this? And so doing a train the trainer stacked on top of a licensing is a really beautiful way, frankly, to ensure that your content is being delivered correctly. It gives us some sense of control because we cannot have the same amount of control as we could with a franchise. Right. And it honestly, the companies really appreciate it because they're going to make a big investment into your material and they want that investment. They want to have the ROI on that investment that they expected. And then the third layer of control that many of our clients do is actually creating a certification on top of the training. So let's say it is, again, we'll use the example of a 8-module communication course. What is interesting about that is that you can then choose to have, let's say the employees went through it, the employees that go through it, after they go through it, even if it's living in the company's learning management system, can come and take a test and your company can actually certify them in your method of communication. Or you can certify their train the trainer or their executive level to be certified teachers to deliver the content. So these are licensing is, and this is why it seems overwhelming. Probably by now, people are like, oh my gosh, there's too many choices. It's actually very simple when we talk about understanding what you want. So that's why I always go back to, what do you want? How much control do you want? Understanding what you want to be known for and how much control you want. The more control, then we build more of these layers, whether it's a train the trainer or certification on top of it. If you don't care, like I didn't care with my programs, I didn't want to be known for it. That opportunity is so simple. You literally button it up, send it off to them, and you don't see them again until they send you a check. So it really depends on what each individual wants to be known for.
Love it. Actually, you mentioned around the whole certification thing. One thing that actually came to my mind, a good friend of mine had done this, right? So she created a course, and instead of certifying it, what she did, and it's probably be the same in North America, is with a lot of companies in particular, you'll have CPD, continuing professional development.
Mm-hmm.
So you get it like a CPD approved, if you like, and then it becomes like an accreditation. Do you know what I mean?
Yes. Yep. We have quite a few clients actually who have done that, and they have gotten their programs on top of, actually really formal certifications. A certification is a lot of work. And we have clients that just build straight certification programs without even the licensing side. And we help them do that. It's a different life. It's a different lifestyle. You and I talk about lifestyle all the time. Certification really is much more management. And so, the continuing education credits are a great way to also provide that sort of certification without all the management that might come with an official certification program.
Actually, but also, I guess with CPD certified programs as such, you mentioned it's a lot of management, but I guess you can also increase the price of that because there's an element of value which goes into the thought process behind the structure and do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I do. And there's also really cool companies that you can actually get a digital certificate, even if it isn't a certification, a digital certificate that work really well with LinkedIn, for example.
That's
and
cool.
You can submit for a digital certificate and have the people that went through your program, be displaying your digital program certificate. So it looks great for them for professionalism. They're going to pay more for it. Looks great for you because everybody who received it is just promoting your program.
Love it, love it, love it. What was I going to say to you? I just had a blank there. I just hate that when you're in free flow and then suddenly it's like, damn it. Anyway, what was the?
There's so many directions we can go.
Absolutely, but actually, it just came back to me. But the other thing I was going to ask you as well, you mentioned around licensees. Now, I guess in order to go from, okay, so I've got my program, I've got my IP, I want to license it out, but how do I go about finding potential licensees? Because that has got to be kind of the next sticking point. What's your, what would be the best approach about doing that?
Yeah, so we, in the project plan that I was sharing, and I'm giving you guys the steps to that project plan too, we actually have a process that we go through, which there's a couple of different phases to the sales process. The first one is the discovery phase, and then it's going through meeting with the companies and closing. So during that discovery phase, really, first of all, is identifying the ideal buyer, identifying, do you want to release it to other entrepreneurs? Do you want to release it to small businesses? Do you want to release it to nonprofits? So the same way that we have done with scaling consulting businesses, finding that ideal client is the exact same thing that we do here. Here is the difference. We are no longer talking to the end user of the training. We're talking to we put another audience in the middle. So in the past, we have sold the program to somebody that wants to actually learn that program. Now we add another layer in our ideal audience is no longer the end user. The ideal audience is the one that wants to license it from us for the end user. They have different needs. They have different desires. They care about different things. They might not actually care so much about communications or, what fertility or whatever your program is about, right? They care about why they would want that, what it's going to do for their company, how it's going to increase their ROI or increase their engagement or make their brand more well-known or provide maybe more of a complete outcome or maybe more of a complete buffet of offers, right? Those are the things they care about. So it's really important that we understand who your ideal licensee is. It's easier to start selling to individual entrepreneurs and small businesses. And I mean easy, meaning it doesn't take as long to kind of get through the layers than a corporation. So first of all, if you want to sell things for a good amount of money and you want to sell them fast, starting small with these smaller companies is a great entry point to do it. And so connecting with these people is first identifying who they are, who you want to sell to, and why it's important to them. How does your program, and this is really important, how does your program help them to achieve their mission? not help people to communicate more or help people to know how financial management. How does it help them achieve their mission? So first we have to identify what their mission is, and understanding what that individual or small business mission is, or maybe even the culture of their company, especially new startups like tech startups and any new startups actually have a lot of money. And so startups are great places to bring programs into, especially because they're wanting to build a culture. So if you have a really cool program, I have a client who her program that was licensed across Canada, she's a Buddhist sex therapist. Right. I mean, they license anything, guys. And so, so if that company wants to, build a culture around it. So finding that person, right? First of all, number one, LinkedIn really is the number one tool as far as social media that we're going to use for that. So we have LinkedIn is a social media platform. I don't know what's happening with Threads lately, but LinkedIn is a great social media platform. And the next step is well, there's two of them. It's not 1, 2, 3. These are like a 3 punch, but they're even. Just like choose your poison, choose which one is comfortable with you. For LinkedIn, it's networking, it's connecting, it's attending events. The next one is collaboration. And this sort of collaboration is finding people that already have a relationship with your ideal buyer. Let me give you an example of this. One of the fastest ways that we sell programs into nonprofits, into larger companies, into even universities are finding consultants that already work with them.
Right.
So find people that are already connected, that are already hired by that organization to solve a problem, because we can turn them into your affiliates. They can actually get commission by bringing your program in. They already have the relationship. We don't need to have the relationships. I'm not out there making relationships with, Michelin tire or whatever. They don't know who I am. But I know people who have their ear and who understand, what their culture is and how they want to solve problems. So number 2 is finding those connections. And then number 3 is speaking. Speaking is one of the fastest ways that we actually sell licensed programs. So you don't even have to be a huge keynote speaker to thousands of people. You can go in and you can teach company workshops. You can go and give TEDx talks, whatever that is. If you're a speaker, there's a process of booking you to speak, and then immediately within 10 days later, booking a follow-up with a company to help implement what you talked about. And we sell your program to the company on the backside. They've already brought you in, whether it's free or paid to speak. And so that's really the 1, 2, 3. So, definitely networking, building relationships, connecting, attending events. I swear there is nothing more powerful than attending in-person events. And I don't even do that often. I think I only get to attend like 2 in-person events per year. Those are so much better, I think, than anything that we can do digitally. So attending events, but definitely diligently, like on LinkedIn, setting up coffee dates and having coffee chats with people, but being efficient. Know why. Our time is more valuable than money, in my opinion. So I don't just have coffee dates with anybody. There's a reason why that I think it would not only be good for me, but good for them out of, mutual respect. And number 2, again, is speaking. We talked about speaking, or no, number 2, because they all go in any order. Number 2 is finding corporate consultants that are already connected with that company, finding people that already work with that company. And then number 3 is speaking.
Love it. Love it. Love it. Now, I know that we're coming towards the end of our conversations and stuff. And listen, we could talk for hours. I know we could talk for hours because there's just so much that we could go in terms of direction around licenses. So the other thing, actually, just before you go, actually, is around the whole kind of licensing model. I just want to quickly backtrack because you talked about like who you identify who you wanted to license it out to and stuff. Would you also include a trial period? Could you include a trial period as part of that licensing framework?
Yeah, not usually. I'm sure we could finagle that. That hasn't really come across my plate. I haven't had that personally happen with any of our clients within the last decade. What we do, however, is if a company isn't really sure that they want the whole program, we go in and we teach a workshop for that company, or we'll teach a workshop to the C-suite with a high level of what that would be and give them a taste of that. And that gives them an opportunity to really see the content and whether or not that fits in with their ecosystem as well. So workshops, whether they're full day or you travel to them, whatever that is a really great opportunity also for you to have the chance to say, hey, you know what? I don't really think I want my program in this company. So workshops work great. The other thing I will say before we end is that companies really want high value in short time, just like all of our, like, we don't usually build year-long online courses like we did 10 years ago, right? And so everybody wants high value in short time. So oftentimes, and this is just a heads up, that we will present a program or a training that is 6 weeks, 8 weeks, 12 weeks. And the company will say, hey, listen, I only want 3. Can we just have 3 modules? And the answer is, I don't know. And that's part of what we work on with our clients, because our job is to deliver a measurable transformation. And companies will always come back and ask for less, not because they don't value the whole thing, but because think of all the other programs they're implementing. They only have so much time depending on all their staff. So that is kind of also one of those places where we say, hey, listen, we're willing to do some modifications to this to help you meet your needs, or no, your people can't get the results unless they take all 8 weeks. And if they don't take 8 weeks and they don't finish it, it's not going to be good for you. And it's not going to be good for me. Right. And we have had some of our clients part ways because a company, they just kind of want to put it on the chopping block sometimes. Again, it's not because they don't respect your work. It's because they frankly don't have time to implement it all. So with that being said, you don't have to have it all built. We really teach our clients to sell it before we go and make any modifications, before we go and build it. If you have an outline of a program, if you've been one-on-one coaching, it doesn't have to be built into a course. It doesn't even have to be recorded. You just have to have your material and your curriculum laid out, and then you go into selling it. Because if they want to host it, maybe they want to use your curriculum and record one of their employees' faces over it. So there's a lot of work that doesn't have to be done until it's sold. So I'm a big advocate of actually making sure, as long as we have great curriculum, you're really good at what you do, you've gotten people transformational results before, then moving into who do we want to sell it to, starting those conversations, because the reality is after those conversations are held, we usually have at least 3 or 4 weeks before we hold a kickoff meeting and actually drop the program. Right. We get lots of time with this. So it's not like you're going to have a meeting, sell it, and have to drop it on Monday. So it's very flexible.
Very cool. Love it. Well, listen, I just want to say for you guys that are listening in, I hope that you've been enjoying some of the golden nuggets that April has dropped for today. April, I just want to say thank you so much for today, and I really greatly appreciate your time. And it's been so fun hanging out with the small time that we've had together.
I'd love being here. Thank you so much.
Awesome. And for you guys that are listening in, what I would highly endorse you go and do, please check out April's links below, and also make sure that you take advantage of a free gift that she's kindly donated as part of for you guys as a gift, as a token of appreciation for listening in today's show. So listen, I hope you've enjoyed today's show. And so for me and April, I just want to say thank you so much for being listening in today, and hopefully we'll see you again soon. Take care. See you soon.